You're on.
3 years ago today, the 45th President of the United States, having experienced a decisive defeat in the 2020 election, sicked a mob of his supporters on the U.S. Capitol in a bid to disrupt the official certification of Joe Biden's victory. It was the culminating event in a multi-pronged campaign of deceit, corruption, and intimidation, the aim of which was to overcome the legitimate political process and retain the defeated president in office. Yesterday, President Joe Biden marked this anniversary with an address at Valley Forge. Early in his remarks, he explained the significance of the venue and returned to the theme later. It is an important speech, and I urge you to Google it up and watch it in full. President Biden recounted some of what took place on January 6th. Consider also what a significant Republican has said. On February 13, 2021, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell delivered a fiery speech condemning the former president. He did so, however, after casting a vote at the conclusion of the second impeachment trial not to hold the former president accountable. The very next day, drawing from the text of McConnell's speech, I posted on Facebook a motion of censure I had drafted. Listen, please. Whereas, as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell stated on February 13, quote, "There's no question, none, that President Trump is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of January 6th. Whereas, the events to which Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell referred were, in his words, quote, a disgrace during which American citizens attacked their own government, used terrorism to try to stop a specific piece of domestic business they did not like, beat and bloodied our own police, stormed the Senate floor, tried to hunt down the Speaker of the House, built a gallows, and chanted about murdering the Vice President. Whereas, as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell stated, former President Trump incited these acts by having to the rioters, quote, fed wild falsehoods because he was angry he had lost an election, and that his, quote, actions preceding the riot were a disgraceful dereliction of duty. Whereas, as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell stated, the people that stormed this building believed they were acting on the wishes and instructions of their president, and that having that belief was a foreseeable consequence of the growing crescendo of false statements, conspiracy theories, and reckless hyperbole, which the defeated president kept shouting into the largest megaphone on planet Earth. Whereas, as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell stated, the incitement encompassed, quote, the entire manufactured atmosphere of looming catastrophe, the increasingly wild myths about a reverse landslide election that was somehow being stolen, some secret coup by our now president. Whereas, as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell stated, the mob acted upon, quote, an intensifying crescendo of conspiracy theories orchestrated by an outgoing president who seemed determined to either overturn the voters' decision or else torch our institutions on the way out. Whereas, as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell stated, the unconscionable behavior did not end when the violence actually began, and that the mob was assaulting the Capitol in his name, carrying his banners, hanging his flags, and screaming their loyalty to him. Whereas, as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell stated, it was obvious that only President Trump could end this, and he was the only one who could, and former aides publicly begged him to do so, and loyal allies frantically called the administration. Whereas, as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell stated, the president did not act swiftly and did not do his job, and didn't take steps so federal law could be faithfully executed and order restored, and instead, according to public reports, he watched television happily as the chaos unfolded and kept pressing his scheme to overturn the election. Whereas, as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell stated, even after it was clear to any reasonable observer that Vice President Pence was in serious danger, even as the mob carrying Trump banners was beating cops and breaching perimeters, the president sent a further tweet attacking his own vice president. Whereas, as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell stated, predictably and foreseeably, under the circumstances, members of the mob seem to interpret this as a further inspiration to lawlessness and violence. Whereas, as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell stated, later, even when the president did half-heartedly begin calling for peace, he didn't call right away for the riot to end, and did not tell the mob to depart until even later, and even then, with police officers bleeding and broken glass covering the Capitol floors, he kept repeating election lies and praising the criminals. Whereas, as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell stated, it was Donald Trump who did engineer the campaign of disinformation and rage that provoked the assault on the bastion of our democracy. Therefore be it resolved that Donald John Trump, former President of the United States, for his disgraceful conduct against the United States, its Constitution, and our democracy, is hereby censured in the strongest possible terms as one who is unfit ever again to hold the office of President of the United States or any other position of public trust. I cannot help but think that had Congress swiftly adopted such a resolution then, and in having done so, locked into the historical record the assessment of Congress and of some members who later caved to MAGA, the security of liberal democracy in the United States would be much greater now. Let's be clear, MAGA is a potent force. Right here in Colorado, right here in Congressional District 4, right here in Douglas County, right here in Castle Rock. Both ardent supporters of the former president and others who have simply acquiesced, as President Biden said, MAGA voices have made their choice. I conclude with a passage from President Biden's speech. Now the rest of us, Democrats, independents, mainstream Republicans, we have to make our choice. I know mine, and I believe I know America's. We'll defend the truth, not give in to the big lie. We'll embrace the Constitution of the Declaration, not abandon it. We'll honor the sacred cause of democracy, not walk away from it. Join us.